Hey there, hope you're doing well. So the Anker Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro ANC wireless earbuds came out over a week ago, and already there are over 30 reviews, making it one of the most rapidly reviewed TWS earphones ever. But what do they sound like? Which sound descriptions do you trust, and who do you believe? Well, my focus is always on sound quality, and this video is different to my usual in that there are no sound recordings. However, I will point you to some, including of my previous Liberty 2 Pro that has the same ACAA coaxial balanced armature and dynamic driver design. We're going to deep dive through 30 reviews in just a matter of minutes and end up with some conclusions, so stay tuned to make sure you don't miss any points, and we'll go through some further things to consider at the end. Welcome to GI Chow. So all these quotes and links are on my blog, which I'll link to in the video description, but I'll highlight the main points as we go through them too. So here are some brief sound quality descriptions of the Anker Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro. There's quite a few of them that we're going to get through in a few minutes. See how well we do. So starting with some reviewers I trust the ears of who typically describe sound as I perceive it, including some of the most popular YouTube reviewers as well as some other reviews also at websites and forums. They include links to their full reviews and sound recordings, which encourage you to check out for information about all aspects of the earphones, and we conclude with my takeaways about one of the most highly reviewed TWS earphones ever. Without getting too meta, the nature of truth and how to decide who to believe about one of the most important factors when choosing a wireless earphone, namely sound quality. Now, Bart at Scarbia.com says, bass strikes roll off quickly and can follow each other in truly rapid procession. This is one heavy-hitting, fast-pacing bass. Higher frequencies got proper attention as well. On top of that, the soundstage is lovely wide. Make no mistake, though, the Liberty 3 Pro still has a rather aggressive soundcore approach to music, which means that centre mid-tones fall a bit behind in between the outspoken bass and upper mids. Snare drums and piano play can be a bit recessed, and some male or darker female vocals can lack body in the lows. The biggest problem might be that treble is a bit hissy, especially in rock songs. So whether it's Rage Against the Machine, Placebo, or playing Coldplay, guitars and high-pitched vocals sound brighter than usual, somewhat artificial. They don't sound harsh overall, but higher notes can be a bit overblown in their own songs. This artificialness is never gone, but it can be toned down by the various other sound options from the app. So overall, a fairly positive review. I think he's given this 5 stars, but you can see that there are some mitigations in his description. You can see I've added here a little comment that I made on his Instagram. He's basically responded to my question about how it compares to Liberty 2 Pro, and he said it's got the same character but better definition, deeper, more textured bass, wider soundstage, more precise instrument placement. Now, see on the making, I asked him about his name, and apparently it stands for CEO in the making. He describes it as having plenty of bass that's punchy and tight. The treble is not too sharp. Whatever type of sound signature you prefer, you can tailor these to provide that. And I put the actual timestamps within the video for all of these, of where you can find his description of the, in fact, all these descriptions of the sound quality, particularly. EBP Man Tech Reviews, he just says it sounds fantastic, but critically, he has got an audio and core quality test. I'll click on this. I'm not sure we're going to be able to see it start playing, but he's actually got a section here.
Now in today's video, we're going to do.
He's got a section in here, and I actually linked to that down here. One of the comments against that video, 023 is where he starts playing the Liberty 3 Pro vocals, and then he starts with some bass tracks around 135. And to my ears, the Liberty 3 Pro has leaner bass in the vocals, highlighting the female vocal range a bit, and highs are a touch too bright. The CX has more mid-bass, more natural vocals, highlighting the male vocal range. R.LUM.R is another guy who does sound quality recordings, and he just simply says in the review video, the Liberty 3 Pro smokes the Sony WF-1000XM4, although obviously there are a number of other ones that he would level that description against. Someone's actually made the comment about how we would rate all those which smoke the XM4, and I've asked them whether they could do that as well, so check out their video to see whether they get back on that one. Digital Slang, another guy who I do respect his opinions. He says these sound fantastic, really impressive for the price. It's kind of fairly short and sweet, but he does actually caveat by saying for the price, which is very honest of him. Brian Unboxed prominent deep tight bass, mids and highs come in clean and clear, vocals instruments do stand out. It's good separation with a crisp wide soundstage, leans a bit towards a warm signature with the bass. I was a big fan of the previous model, which took the top of the list for me. New Stuff TV, another funny chap. I really like the sound quality I'm getting from these earbuds. It's just that simple. The bass is strong enough to be boomy when you need it, but it doesn't bleed into your mids and highs. So audiophiles might take exception to that description, talking about it being boomy, when that's probably one of the characteristics that you wouldn't want, at least for audiophiles. Although, of course, as far as the emotional experience goes, that might be exactly what you're after. This person's again is asking, this is just some comments against his video. Somebody from India saying that the 2 Pros are only available there. And someone said, well, actually the sound is very similar between the 2 and 3. So that was the kind of question I actually asked off of, you know, as you can see one of the reviewers earlier, I asked that same question off of Bart at Scarbia, how they compared. So this person's saying, well, actually they sound very similar. Gear Up with R.LUM. Sound quality is slightly more composed and brighter at the same time. Compared to 2 Pros, it's lost some of the warmth that I do like. The bass is a little more muffled. You can dial some of the warmth back in with EQ, but it's still no match for the Sony WF-1000 XL4. So quite a different opinion to some of those others that we've just heard. Our Regina Tech Review is one I've just discovered fairly recently. It's I think it's Japanese, but the subtitles are in English, so it's understandable to Westerners. The default setting of signature is a bit vague. This is a classic V-shaped sound with lower mid-range, lower bass and higher treble that suits general users who like stimulating sounds. For those who like a flat sound, there's no particularly useful setting among the equalizer presets. It's essential to apply my recommended EQ value, and he's got some sound samples within that video as well. El Jefe Reviews, based on my personal Hear ID experience. So again, he's qualifying his description of the sound with his equalization. So he's effectively saying, well, you may not get the same thing, but you know, that's, I guess, fair enough. That's all he can say. The Soundcore Liberty 3 is going to be known for that bass response. It's strong and there's deep sub-bass extension. The mid-range has been improved, but required a bit of tweaking to get to my personal taste. So there's a bit of a hint here that you actually going to need to do a bit of work to get these to sound good. They can tend to be inconsistent. Vocal clarity is still very good, and there's good stage and width in the sound. The treble can become too bright or similar. It can be dialed back. And then he rates the Liberty 3 Pro against various other high quality earphones. So I think particularly these are all ANC earphones rather than including those without ANC. In first place he puts Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro even above the Sennheiser CX Plus, and as some few regular viewers may know, I put the Sennheiser CX 400BT, which is still part of my staple listening, be top of all those that I've heard so far. Although I've got to say I haven't heard Liberty 3 Pro. GameSky, these are GameSky, I don't know how you pronounce it. These are bold, boomy, bright. That's how I want them set up. So again, he's kind of saying things that, you know, would probably not appeal to the typical audiophile, somebody who's after a natural, fairly flat, balanced sound signature, where they're all descriptions of sound which are quite contrary to that. The ability to change these to make them sound however you want is really crazy. So again, it's a bit of a hint that you might need to do some work to get them to sound good. Without LDAC, a little hollow sounding, says Short Circuit, who's Linus as far as I understand it. Not super rich, find the highs almost too crisp out of the box, but you can turn them down. So again, saying you might need to do a bit of work to get these to sound good. Sean Talks Tech, the sound signature of the Soundcore and the Sony are pretty close, so I'd rate the Soundcore to have a bit stronger bass and also better clarity. Flossie Carter, entertaining guy. Last year I did Liberty 2 Pro, the same reaction. These sound incredible. The highs, mids crystal clear, that bass was thumping just now, and I could probably get more bass from the EQ settings in the app. Sound quality is major. He says major, he doesn't say major, or, you know, quad major or whatever. So take what you will from that. You're buying these for Soundcore, you're not going to be disappointed. Brunner number D, or no D. The sound is phenomenal without it. Like he's talking about there, I can't imagine this being any better than what I just listened to. So he's obviously very enthusiastic about that one. Tech Odyssey, the sound is pristine. It's probably the best bass I've ever heard in a set of earbuds. You can hear the individual tones, mids are good, vocals are good, the highs are very good as well. MTG Productions, I'm no audiophile, but these perform really well in day-to-day use. Jonathan Morrison, they sound phenomenal on their own, but just in case you want to tweak that, you have Ender's Control. Why you'd want to tweak it if it sounds phenomenal, I don't know, but there you go, that's what he's saying. Out of the box, the stock profile is really aggressive with the low end. I personally really enjoy that. Underground Tech, sound quality is an improvement, so we're getting towards reviewers who I wouldn't necessarily follow, but have actually produced a review fairly quickly. It sounds like maybe they've been provided with these samples of the Liberty 3 Pro in advance. Sound quality improvement, it sounds like the bass is a little more balanced with the mids and highs. These are a little more clearer of Liberty Pros, so kind of a qualified suggesting that there's a bit of an improvement of Liberty Pros sound quality wise. Clearly they do have a number of features over the Liberty 3 Pros, which we might get onto a little bit later, but he's saying sound wise they sound a bit better. It feels like the bass can overshadow at certain points, but that's when I had it on full volume. I think the sound is solid for the price. Rich music tech reviews. Out of the box, these were decent sounding, but not the best. You can fix that quite easily. The sound quality is a step on Liberty 2 Pro. The bass is even deeper, the high even more crisp, and the sound stage even wider. Everything's been given a 10 to 50% improvement. So he's saying it's a little bit better. It's not huge. When we get onto it, but these are actually over double the price of Liberty 2 Pros, and you're saying 10 to 50% improvement. English down reviews, the bass is really smooth bass. I imagine the Liberty 2 Pro bass, but enhanced, clearer. The mids come through nice and strong. The lows don't spill into the mids, and your highs come through perfectly well detailed. It can be a little bit too high for me. So another one's talking about the highs being a bit bright. You can control that with the app. Geeky stuff, a nice amount of bass, crystal highs and fantastic mids. The quality is amazing. It sounded big, so it's talking about a wide sound stage there. They took all the things we love from the 2 Pros and threw them into the 3. The bass is still there, the quality is still crystal. So that's show and tech. So he's saying it's comparable to Liberty 2 Pro. TK Bay, a very good balanced experience, bass heavy but does not damage mids and highs. Tech Guy Smart Buy can be customized to a sound you prefer. The D Show, I don't notice a huge difference compared to the previous versions. That's very straightforward and honest. Fishbee Productions sound really nice, crystal clear. OS reviews, they offer by far more detail than regular AirPods can deliver, so he's obviously comparing these to AirPods for some reason. I suppose they have ANC like AirPods, and they maybe iPods Pro that is. Is that the one, the AirPods Pro? AirPods, I think he's actually talking about AirPods here, judging by that's a bit of an extract from the video. All frequencies shine with plenty of details and textures of instruments. The vocals can be picked up with the Hear ID custom mode activated. They're felt even better, just added a touch more detail, dynamic punch to sound. It's very good in terms of no distortion or static in the background. DVZN Media, that's the one that chips off the tongue, isn't it? The sound was that little bit of bass that they put into these without making it sound trash. These do really well with tuning. Overall, we just have a great pair of headphones. Okay, so he seems fairly enthusiastic. Ken Yanao, don't know if that's pronounced, apologies if it's not. It's full, rich, the bass pops, you've got a tremendous amount of control of the sound you hear. It's just not quite as clean as the Bose QC, so he's comparing it to his Bose. If you're really just into music that is more classical nature, maybe more acoustic sounding, the Bose is probably a really good choice for you. If it's just, I've got a typo there, Liberty 3 Pros give you a richer sound with a deeper bass. So videos continue to be produced, and I've got some placeholders on my blog with not available for the YouTube reviewers. I haven't produced a video at the time of writing, but these are some of the reviewers I do tend to value the opinions of. So my takeaway from the reviews then is that this is a TDF that can, after changing EQ settings, sound good, if not the best, especially those prefer a V-shaped sound signature, and has several features that would not normally be found at this price, including reasonably effective ANC, which is for earphones at least, transparency mode, configurable frequency equalization, multi-point connection, allowing 2 devices to be connected at the same time, single bud mono mode using either side, configurable touch controls with all the tap and hold options, as well as support for the high-res LDAC codec, though the value of that, say, is debatable since tuning has a much more significant effect one hears. So ultimately, unless you need all the features, an equivalent of better sound quality, especially for those before a natural sound, can be had for less money. And if you can wait, the Liberty 3 Pro will likely be discounted when no longer flavour of the month. So the driver construction is the same as the previous Liberty 2 Pro, although they do describe the what's it called, Astra acoustic architecture coaxial acoustic architecture, I think it stands for, as version 2 rather than 1, so maybe they've done some tweaks there. But essentially it looks like the driver construction is the same as the previous Liberty Pro, which for me lacked speed of transient response, resulting in a slower, woollier bass response and overall less realistic sound. Amplification response with how quickly drivers are pushed and pulled, and that takes current and battery in a mobile device. So I'm suggesting here that there's going to be a trade-off between audio reproduction realism, which is related to the speed, the transient response of the drivers, and battery life. The Liberty 3 Pro has a long battery life of 6 to 8 hours, so you can draw your own conclusions. Now I've got videos on how effective earphone ANC is, including some of the top performers there, so you get an idea for yourself of what to expect. Also free equalizers, obviously Anker Soundcore have created their own equalizer which lets you bake in a frequency equalization to your earphones, whichever device you connect it to, so that's probably a good thing for most people. There are some free equalizers, including ones built into Samsung phones, and there are other techniques like tips that you can use to change sound signature, and I've also got sound recordings of the previous Liberty 2 Pro against some competitors. Now I personally found Liberty Pro slug style a bit less comfortable, practical and stable form factor for my ears, so it's probably not one. The Liberty 3 Pro is one I'm going to be trying myself. Now other reviews identify potential cons to consider, including mic quality, responsive controls and ANC quality. A laptop mag, you won't be disappointed by the sound quality offer, but you can get sound just as good for a low price from competitors. And on Reddit there's a comment about the mic issues, of course, being a complete deal breaker. And I used ANC as an outdoor calf last night, it was horrible, hardly any difference on or off. So of course you can refer to those. If you go to my blog, you can click on that link. So coming to the meta bit, can one believe the current hype around the Liberty 3 Pro? So this is part of a much bigger question about who does one trust and how does one know who to trust. So here are a few things I look for: a history of opinions I agree with, quality of analysis and language, internal consistency, so maintain the same relative rankings over time where products are unchanged, of course. Clarity of motivation, I'll get on that in a minute. A sense of fairness, presenting cons as well as pros, a respectful approach to others' opinions. Number and quality of followers, views and comments, although do bear in mind all those can be faked. A trustworthy demeanour and genuine interest in the subject and audience. Similar musical tastes. Genres, of course, make a different demands of technical performance like bass, instrument separation, vocals and soundstage. A source of wealth independent from particular manufacturers. A consensus from your trusted sources. Now reviews and videos take a lot of time to produce and of course cost money if you're not provided with the product for free, so you've got to wonder what the motivation of a reviewer is. So are they many specialised shopping channels, brand marketers seeking recognition, celebrity and perhaps on the career, creatives wanting to publish and perhaps monetize their output? They look to develop their communication skills or experiences, wanting to share their knowledge or help others develop self-esteem, wanting to connect with like-minded people. And that's something you've got to decide for yourself, but keep in mind with everything you see in here, this applies to everything in life, not just earphones. What's the motivation behind the message that I'm receiving, whether that's from a person or a company or even a government? Now, having said all this, even assuming no bias or outright lies, we all perceive things differently, and there may be no single absolute truth anyway. In the world of audio, especially, sound signatures, tastes differ, cultural difference have been suggested, and even within an individual taste can change over time. At the end of the day, unless you're a sound engineer, arguably what matters is the emotional impact of music, and happily that's something available on any budget nowadays. So feel free to drop a question, comment against my videos. If you've got value, then liking and subscribing. The channel helps bring the information to a wider audience and supports monetization and production of new content. So thanks for your support on that. And if you want a taste of the sound quality of the Liberty 3 Pro at well under half the price and don't need ANC, you can check out Liberty 2 Pro. So finally, my focus is always on sound quality, which is why I try to provide sound samples. So of course, other aspects of TWS earphones are important, like control scheme, how often you need to tap, whether there's a hold control, swipe and so on, sensitivity, comfort and security of fits, very important. Waterproof ratings may be important to you, battery life, connection reliability, mic quality, ANC quality and so on. So some of these you can find out from the spec sheets, but I'd recommend reading or watching a few of the reviews, maybe some of those I've referred to in this video, to get a feel for those aspects too, since sound quality becomes a little bit academic if you never actually end up using the earbuds. So when I'm quiet on YouTube, you can check out my blog posts here, Amazon reviews. I'm a top 3,000 reviewer, even my playlist of tracks. I've got a playlist on YouTube. So I do get a bit of money, hardly anything really from the affiliate links, but if you click on those, they'll help me out. So I've got no manufacturer affiliation. I just care about what sounds good. So using those links won't cost you won't cost you any more money, but helps me devote more time to producing impartial content. Anyway, thanks for watching. Glad you stuck through. Hope you learnt something. And enjoyed Liberty Pros if you end up getting them, but hopefully you'll be a bit more informed about your choice should you do that. Okay, all the best. Take care. See you next time. Bye.